Good morning and welcome to Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial on North Shore 1049. My name is Marc Freedman. I'm President and CEO of Freedman Financial, located in Peabody, Massachusetts, right across the street from the North Shore Mall and just above Alto Forno Restaurant in Peabody. How are you doing this morning? We are in the middle of September. Kids are back to school. Little crispness is starting to hit the air. The hint of colors appearing on the leaves suggesting that we're transitioning to the fall. And you know what that means? That means the Topsfield Fair is coming up. That's right. Topsfield Fair coming up October 4th to October 14th. I talk about the Topsfield Fair a lot in the weeks leading up to it. That's because I have a booth at the Topsfield Fair. It's called the B'nai B'rith booth. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, Mark, what does that have to do with financial advice in a language you can understand? Well, here's why. There'll be close to 500,000 people that will walk through the gates of the Topsfield Fair. The Topsfield Fair, if you go on the day of the fair to buy your tickets and buy your parking, you are a fool, because right now, yes, today and every day leading up to the day before the fair, you can buy discounted tickets, deeply discounted tickets, for admission, for parking, for rides, and even for food. That is right. You can buy discounted food vouchers. Why people wait till the very last minute and then complain, oh my goodness, it's so expensive to go to the fair? Well, that is poor planning, folks. You can plan better. Financial advice in a language you can understand says that if you're listening to this show right now, if you live on the North Shore, if you live in the Merrimack Valley, if you live in the southern New Hampshire area, you are a hop, skip, and a jump from the main entrance, the ticket booth at the Topsfield Fair. Go there right now. They're open as we speak. They are open selling those discounted ride tickets, admission tickets, parking tickets, food tickets, concert tickets. I understand Creedence Clearwater Revival is coming. You want to get tickets for that? They have tickets available as well. The Topsfield Fair is a wonderful family-focused event. We have a booth there. My wife and I run what's called the B'nai B'rith booth, which has been there for 50 years, 50 plus years at the fair. We serve everything from hot dogs to hot pastrami to brisket to matzo ball soup to knishes to chicken fingers and french fries and all the good stuff that you'd expect to find at a fair. We call it Jewish Fair at the Topsfield Fair. And from a financial advice in a language you can understand situation, think about this. Everybody loves to get a hot dog at the fair. When you get a hot dog, the traditional hot dogs that you find at any fair are generally 2-ounce hot dogs. They're the traditional 2-ounce hot dogs. And what would you pay for a hot dog at the fair? $3, $4, $5? What would you expect to pay? For a regular hot dog, maybe $10. I don't know. What would you expect to pay? Well, get this. At the Topsfield Fair booth, at our B'nai B'rith booth, we sell more than 3,000 quarter-pound hot dogs. Those are 4-ounce hot dogs, not those wimpy 2-ounce hot dogs. 4-ounce all-beef hot dogs for $4. Now, you won't find a better value, and that's why there's always a line at our booth, because we know you can get a great deal at the fair at our booth. So please swing by. If you're listening to the show, if you happen to be a listener to the show, and you come by during the fair, and you ask for either myself or my wife Laura, one of us are always there at the fair, and you say, hey, I listened to Dollars and Cents on North Shore 1049, we have a special treat for you. So don't be shy. Go up to the window, ask, and we'll take good care of you. So that's one of the things that's going on. Another thing that I wanted to talk to you about today was something that happened very interesting this week. On Wednesday of this week was September 11th. And many of you remember September 11th. Everybody kind of knows where they were on September 11th. Many people will tell you, I know where I was when JFK was assassinated. I'll tell you, I don't remember where I was because, frankly, I wasn't born yet. And I had that instance happen to me on Wednesday. Wednesday, I was invited to Town Hall in North Andover where they had a 9/11 ceremony, a brief ceremony, about 10 or 15 minutes. And they had invited my son, Noah, who's a senior at the high school, to sing the national anthem and to sing God Bless America at the end of the ceremony. As many of you know, Noah is a very talented performer. In fact, oftentimes you've seen him performing at Small Act Farms, on the Peach Festivals, the Apple Festivals, all those kind of festivals. He performs acoustic guitar up there. They asked him to sing at the town hall thing. And as I watched the 50 to 100 people or so that were there listening to the stories of 9/11. They had a few prayers that were offered, some moments of silence, some reflections. And I watched my son as he delivered the Star-Spangled Banner and America the Beautiful, or God Bless America. I'm not sure which one he did at the end. You could see, it was emotional for a lot of people. And many people still think about that day and the impact it had, and how September 12th became that rallying day for patriotism and being an American, and how strong we felt with each other. But it also was a reminder to me that Noah is 17 years old. He doesn't know that day. He doesn't know the emotion, the memory, the impact, the images that were emblazoned in our minds of what happened that day. And it made me think about how people think to my generation, where I don't remember the day that JFK was assassinated. And how do we keep those memories alive? What do we do? How do we make those moments in time last forever? I know that there's some legislation that's being circulated about making 9/11 part of our traditional history lessons in the schools. But it also made me think about how we as adults think about the lessons that have been made such an impact on our lives and the way we think about money, and how our children and the next generations don't remember anything about it. Some of you will still remember the days of the Depression. The days when it felt like the world was coming to an end. There were breadlines. There were times when you just simply didn't have any money. Poverty was a popular term for a lot of folks in America. And many people, those in their 70s, in their 80s, in their 90s, still think back to those days. The late 1920s. Actually, you were actually in the 80s or the 90s, but you were brought up. You were brought up in that generation with your family telling you the stories. And people are so cautious and so scared about how they use their precious resources in a time like today, where the stock market is an all-time high. There's all these concerns about what could happen if North Korea were to strike, if there were a cyber attack, if our president tweeted something that made people feel so uncomfortable that the world would come to an end. And I'm using that in quotation marks there. There is a generation that lives in continual fear, despite the fact that they have more than adequate resources to protect them and to give them the ability to support their lives throughout their financial life, to support generations to come. How many generations still think of, oh my goodness, when I retire, I want to live off my income. Because think about back in the 1970s, the 1980s, you could comfortably live off your income. You could live off the interest that you collected on your CDs. You could live off savings bond interest. Remember, people would buy savings bonds like crazy in the 70s and the 80s. That's because the value of a savings bond, you buy a $100 savings bond, you pay $50 for it, you'd say, oh, no problem, it'll double to $100 in 7 years. Well, folks, that doesn't happen anymore. And if you still think that that's what savings bonds do, there's a lesson to learn here. That's simply not going to happen. In fact, savings bonds, you know how long it takes for a savings bond to double? Do you know how long it takes? You want to go buy a $100 savings bond, a $200 savings bond. Let's say you want to buy a $100 savings bond and give it to somebody when they're born, because you say, well, hey, I'll buy you a $100 savings bond. It'll cost me $50. And here you can have it, because this will be great money for you to have when it's time for you to go to college. 18 years away, right? For sure it'll double by then. Maybe it'll double even again the way that it used to work back in the 1980s. Well, folks, it takes 20 years. 20 years for a savings bond to double. Why would anybody buy a savings bond that takes 20 years to double? Something to think about. The way we've been brought up and those lessons that we've instilled in our heads, and we say, well, this is what I remember. This is what makes me psychologically think about the way I'm going to handle money. And then we try to impose those stories and those values to the next generation and the generation thereafter, and they look to us like we are nuts. And you know what? In many cases, we are. We really are. we're living in a world that doesn't exist. We're living in a world that existed back then, but looks nothing like what it is today. Are we likely to go back, unwind ourselves back to the 1920s, the 1930s, the 1940s? Absolutely not. We will have changes. We will have waves and hills and valleys in what we deal with in our life, in our lifetime, within the markets. But folks, we've got a plan to move forward. We need to think differently. We need to think about what the future of our finances look like as we build our retirement, as we think about our children's retirement, and how we plan for the future. That's what I call financial advice in a language you can understand. We do it here each and every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. right here on North Shore 104.9. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, I want to share a letter that we just put out to our clients this past week. It's called Our Economic Outlook for the Rest of the Year. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. You're listening to Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial on North Shore 104.9.